All right. It is 2 minutes after the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Well, first, I want to say hello, everyone, and thanks for taking time to join us today. Welcome to another Cantaloupe webinar. I'm Adrian Austin. I'm a member of the marketing team here at Cantaloupe, and today we're going to be chatting about cashless payments and the current trends that we're seeing right now in the vending industry. But before we get going with introducing our two excellent speakers, I wanted to provide some basic admin guidance on some of the webinar tools that we have today. So you'll notice on the screen, there's a few options that you have from Zoom. So one of these is our questions box. So here you're going to be able to enter any questions that you have for our speakers as they're presenting today. And then at the end of the session, we're going to be taking time to answer as many of them as we can as we're going through. So we're going to be collecting questions throughout the whole presentation. So feel free to post them at any time. You don't have to wait until the end. And then, like I said, we'll dive into those after the conversation. Additionally, please keep an eye out on your email from Sean later this week. As a webinar attendee, we're going to be sending you out the recording for the webinar if you'd like to rewatch it or share it with a friend. But we're also going to be sending you information about a webinar exclusive card reader promotional pricing. So that should be going out sometime later this week in the next day or two. So do keep an eye out for that. All right, so the agenda for talking today. So we're going to go through a few different great topics today. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff to chat through. So first, I'm going to be introducing our two speakers, Sean and Owen. And then they're going to be diving into kind of a look into our state of the industry today when it relates to payments and consumer trends in the vending industry. After that, we're going to be diving more into the nitty-gritty and specifics around some of the benefits around payment types in the vending industry and the impacts that it can have around boosting sales, improving operational efficiencies, satisfaction, convenience for customers, and then also just great, interesting insights you can get with data to provide more data-driven decisions in your operations. Then we're going to close it out. We're talking about best practices if you're interested in trying to upgrade your machines, if you're looking at the best way to do this at scale, have multiple machines at once, and then talking about the upcoming sunset of the 3G networks, sort of what to know, how to plan for it, how to prepare. But first, talking about our speakers. So we have two great speakers today. I'm really happy that they both were able to join us. So first, talking about Sean Berger. So Sean Berger has been working in the payments industry for more than 25 years, starting his career in South Africa in retail and hospitality, and then subsequently relocating to the Asia Pacific region to offer financial services to mobile network operators in the area. In 2004, Sean relocated to the UK, where he resides today, and joined Verifone's European sales team. In 2008, he took over as a role of Senior VP at Verifone for the Western European, Middle East, and Africa region. In 2022, Sean joined us here at Cantaloupe as MD of the EMEA region, bringing years of the relevant experience and knowledge to our vending industry. Sean's always been an early adopter when it comes to technology and is a lifelong advocate for cashless payments and really to help businesses create an ecosystem that helps them grow and expand their revenue portfolios. So Sean, thanks a bunch for taking the time to be with us today.
No problem. Thanks, Adrian. Happy to be here.
All right, next up is Owen Baker from Decorum Vending. So Owen also brings a ton of experience, over a decade in the retail and finance services. He started at Curry's PLC, formerly Dixon's Carphone, working as a finance business partner for their business-to-business function before moving over to Quilter PLC, which is one of UK's largest financial services companies, in a similar role. Currently, Owen serves as the financial director at Decorum Vending, and Owen is also an advocate for technology, especially in cashless payments, where they have enhanced the vending industry's financial efficiency through increasing revenues and margins increases, which Owen has seen firsthand at Decorum. As part of the senior management team at Decorum, he's constantly seeking technology to improve the business. And with the experience in retail, financial services, and unattended retail, Owen really offers valuable insights, and his commitment to the innovation really is going to speak for itself as he talks to some of his experiences and his stories as we're going through the slides. So, Owen, thanks a bunch for being with us today.
Thanks for having us, Adrian. Good to be here.
All right, last slide for me before I kick it over to Sean and Owen. Quick introduction for the companies, if you guys need a quick refresher. So Cantaloupe is a technology provider in the self-service retail industry. We were founded in 1992, and we currently provide services to over 27,000 operators and customers, and connect to about 1.15 million cashless devices and markets from across the globe. With micro market payment processing, enterprise cloud software, IoT technology, and of course, lots of vending machine services, Cantaloupe empowers businesses of all sizes, from just up and coming new industries to full enterprises, to provide self-service experiences for their consumers. Decorum Vending, founded in 2015, has 300 vending locations and over 700 machines with a 35-person team. So at Decorum, they believe that their customers demand high-quality, convenient retail services wherever they are. And so Decorum specializes in public transport offerings for mobile and on-the-move customers, utilizing contactless payment solutions and making customer satisfaction a real core tenet of their business. And with that, I'm going to hand it over there. So, Sean, let me go to the next slide, and you can take it away.
All right, thank you very much. Right, so let's just do a bit of a rollback as far as the state of the industry is concerned and how we ultimately get to or got to where we are today. So first and foremost, the UK has always been a relatively early adopter of technology, especially when it came to payment solution sets and the compliance from a security standards and mandates perspective. So in 2004, we actually started adopting EMV in the UK, or as we typically refer to it as chip and pin. And it was basically led by the major retailers in the country to secure electronic transactions from specific card usage. Now, obviously, in the early days, most of these transactions were done as chip and pin transactions. Most of your card brands out there didn't necessarily issue dual purpose cards with contactless enabled as far as those devices are concerned. And that only started filtering into the marketplace over a duration of time. Contactless is not a new technology necessarily. I recall from the late 90s, we were deploying contactless solutions for closed loop payment systems out in Africa in several locations. We also did the same thing out in Asia Pacific, but it wasn't widely adopted at that point. There were a lot of limitations as far as the technology is concerned, and the card brands actually spent quite a bit of time on marketing the concept of contactless payment acceptance, but it wasn't until probably the COVID event that took place at a global level where people truly started adopting the technology and shifting their buying behavior and patterns as far as card usage is concerned. Do you want to switch to the next slide, Adrian? Thank you. So, based on the statistical data that we have typically seen since 2017, to all intents and purposes, there's been a very steady decline in cash acceptance at vending machines out in the marketplace. And the adoption of cashless devices at vending machines specifically has been obviously steadily increasing over time. This, coupled with some of the other technology solution sets that are available out in the market, does also give a lot of advantage to vending operators out in the marketplace that typically drives different data points and allows companies like Decorum, as an example, to become far more efficient from an overall perspective. And at this point, I would like to just obviously hand over to Owen as well, so that he can give us a bit more of a perspective around what they've seen from an adoption perspective, number one, when they started their migration to cashless solution sets and how that has actually affected their business. Owen, if you could possibly just give us a little bit of a flavor from your perspective as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. So we actually at Dagora, I think we did start offering cashless solutions, and it was back in 2015. So there was a lot of our machines at that time were actually sort of offering uh, both a dual mechanism, both cash and cashless. And very much at the time as well, the solution we had on offer then was a contactless card reader. So there was no chip and pin on that. And very interestingly, initially, it didn't do sort of massive amounts to the sales, because even back then in 2015, we weren't really used to the whole tap and go at that point.
Yeah.
But as time's gone on, and you see, if you see the correlation there on the graph below, with say like the contactless payments, both mobile and card, that's very much the trajectory we saw until we actually fully eliminated any form of cash back in 2020. The sort of the what's the one I think for the words to say, how our sales are made up of, the split between cash and cashless. For example, it just became higher and higher towards cashless as a percentage of our total sales, and say completely in conjunction there with the second graph there.
Would you agree that this this consumer behavior trend, to all intents and purposes, was very definitely coupled to the fact that during the COVID regime, to all intents and purposes, people actually did start moving far more to cashless or contactless based transactions rather than card insert and PIN validation transactions?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, I think the COVID was the almost not the nail in the coffin for cash. That sounds very extreme, but it was the final thing that really pushed everyone to now not be carrying cash as frequently as say they would have pre-COVID, and then even more so then from sort of COVID and obviously everything that we were sort of hearing at the times, you didn't want to be touching, you needed the tap and go.
Yeah.
We were a little bit conscious about hygiene, what we were touching, those sort of things. So yeah, I mean the contactless element of it just sort of exploded as a result of that as well.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't, not all individuals ultimately understand and know, but originally when contactless got introduced in the UK market, there were contactless limits of up to £20 that you could actually do a contactless transaction, and then the device that you were doing that transaction on would actually force you to do a fallback to chip and pin if the transaction value was higher than £20. They subsequently increased that to £30, and I think during the COVID period, they increased that to £100, obviously knowing that the retail adoption needs to catch up, because I think at that point, people were perfectly happy to do low value transactions using contactless. But the higher value transactions, if I walk into Tesco or Sainsbury's or Aldi or whatever the case may be, and I'm doing an £80 transaction and I can't use contactless, then obviously that negates the whole principle of the technology. So I do feel that there has been a significant shift as a result of that increase in the contactless limits, first and foremost, and then the adoption of more modern technology, typically Apple Pay, Google Pay, those type of things. I know for me personally, I use Apple Pay on a daily basis. Quite frankly, I don't even know where my wallet is, and I haven't known for quite a while. But on Apple Pay, typically there are no transactional limits that I could do a £10,000 transaction to all intents and purposes using contactless, and it would work. So from that point of view, the shift in technology and the supporting technologies ultimately, I think, has driven this whole solution set to do away with cash, as it were.
Yeah. I agree. And it's interesting you say about the Apple Pay, not knowing where your wallet is as well. It's not unusual now for very much you be able to even purchase if you're doing online purchases. If you're doing it through your phone, the option now is there for say an Apple Pay or an Android Pay or something like that as
Exactly.
well.
Yeah.
So say we are all going to start just forgetting about our wallets very quickly at this rate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Adrian, if you could just move to the next slide, please. So yeah, based on what both you and I have been saying now, there has been a very clear shift in the way that people are paying at this point. 2013, 54% of the total number of transactions were made in cash. That figure has come down to 14%. And I do know that the government obviously have certain initiatives going to support the drive to a cashless society to all intents and purposes. And the way security is implemented nowadays, the way that modern technology obviously is adopted as a result of mobile phones, watches, etc., that you can use for payment purposes, there is certainly a very different view or outlook on how these payment trends typically are taking place. I'm just trying to think if we actually missed any key points as far as that specific area is concerned. I don't think so at this stage. So realistically, then just shifting on to the next slide, please, Adrian. So cashless payments for vendors. So obviously, you guys at Decorum have quite a few enviable sites across the UK. You service a very large portion of the rail networks across the country with some very cool vending machines, and I've seen quite a few of them obviously on my travels as part of that overall process. For you guys, shifting to cashless, can you talk a little bit more about what that actually meant for you as a business and how that has impacted your operational efficiencies to all intents and purposes?
Yeah, I mean, from an operational efficiencies sort of perspective, um, just try to think how to answer answer that question. Yeah, sorry, Troy. I just because I'm thinking of some of the
You and I obviously had quite a few conversations about this from a historical point of view, and I think some of the key aspects around this is the adoption of updated technology and obviously getting access to additional data. I know you're a bit of a data geek generally. You like your data because that tells you how to run your business and how to operationalize some of the changes that you are seeking to make as far as your organization's concerned. So I almost get the impression with the shift to a cashless society to all intents and purposes, choosing the right type of technology for implementation at your vending sites obviously does make a huge difference. And having access to those data points in near real time, making sure that your transactional data is managed correctly and your telemetry data as a result of the devices that you've implemented obviously is also key in running your business from an overall perspective.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the big thing as well to sort of throw into that as well is our it's all about convenience
Yeah.
with what we do. As you said, our vending machines. I mean, they're located up and down all the rail networks within England and Wales. We need to have a convenient solution. And that's not just the vending machine, it's the payment solution to it as well. That needs to be convenient. If you're rushing to get a train and your train's coming in a couple of minutes and you've got 2 minutes say 2 minutes to get a drink or a snack or something, you need to tap and go.
Yeah.
So it was kind of imperative for us, especially with where we are located, to make sure that we are offering a solution that was convenient, effectively. and it was a really sort of easy switch when we went fully cashless. I think that was in 2020 to do that, because we knew that was what was really going to sort of drive our sales further and see the bigger increase. It's one of the big reasons why we did it, really.
Yeah, yeah. And for you guys, obviously, you do utilize some of the additional data points that are available as a result of the implementation of cashless solutions. So you make use of telemetry data to a significant extent, and that helps drive some of the efficiencies within your business. That's also part and parcel of Cantlope's obviously foundation. Right at the outset, Cantlope actually started manufacturing and supplying telemetry solutions out in the marketplace, built out vent management solutions in order to support that. But I think that longer term, as you expand as a vending operator, correct me if I'm wrong, becomes a core part of you actually managing your organization from an overall point of view. So choosing the right type of solution sets and having access to those data points ultimately does make a huge difference to you as an organization as well.
Oh, 100%, 100%. It definitely does.
All right. Adrian, if you could move to the next slide for me. Thank you. So obviously, there's very few limitations nowadays on the type of machines, as in vending machines, that we can actually adopt with updated cashless solution sets. I know across the European marketplace, and I fully understand that obviously I'm talking in a much wider sense now. There's still very much a cash-driven society out there. In the UK, like I said earlier, we're certainly driving some of the trends, and we are moving toward a cashless society at a local level. But there is also far more demand generally that we are seeing in the market right now for the adoption of cashless solutions as far as certain device types are concerned. Vending operators are running mixed estates out there. They don't just run traditional snacks and drinks vending machines. And we are actually pushing very hard right now, not only to bring cashless to those vending solution sets that are out there, but also to cover a wide array of devices. So Owen, from your perspective, the concept of tap and go is very important. But are you guys looking at alternative technologies and driving some of that via your current estate? How are you guys looking at this and making sure that obviously you are setting the trend, or at least following what's happening in the marketplace?
So I say we are. We're very much making sure that first and foremost, the solution that we're offering is what's with sort of the times, what's with sort of consumer behavior, which is very much the tap and go. We're making sure that off the back of that the technology that we provided there isn't just, say, the card payment reader itself. It's not just the physical terminal. It's what it does in the back end as well. It's what we see through sort of the data points, the reporting, things like that. So effectively, we can asset manage much more effective, because I think these card readers are telemetry boxes for all intents and purposes. There's been a lot of vending companies who will use vending software, which is fantastic, and obviously vending software does a lot of really, really good things. And you can get the telemetry boxes as well that can help with routing, etc. But your card payment device is a telemetry box that gives you real-time data feeds, tells you things like what time did you sell, what did you sell, where did it sell, etc. And really puts you at the sort of the forefront then to be able to effectively manage your business from a data perspective. Because at the end of the day, the data doesn't lie. I think one of the things is that when we're looking at card payment devices is really looking at what does the back end offer, what's the software that sort of comes with that as well. Do you have something there that enables you to be able to almost operate the card reader remotely? That's a massive thing. Can you offer refunds through it? We'll come on probably to talk about refunds in a short while. So yeah, I mean, when you're looking at these sort of things, you need to make sure that obviously you're choosing a almost an all-in-one package that will serve your business effectively. I think I'd say as well on this, that when you have got that telemetry data that's coming through to you, I talk about sort of asset management. So it's really important that us, given that sort of our locations are, we're all over the place. We're from Bournemouth to Berwick-upon-Tweed. Berwick-upon-Tweed is almost as north as you get before you hit Scotland in England. So we need to have a tight grasp in terms of how each of our machines are performing. If they're not performing well, we need to be able to sort of uplift them and go, look, you know what, this isn't a good sort of asset utilization we have here. And we'll work with who we have to work with in order to sort of get that moved and do whatever. But that effective asset management only comes because we have a real-time telemetry box through this card payment reader that's telling me how it's performing. It's not even just on, it's not performing well. It's telling me as well that, you know what, I didn't sell anything yesterday. It's like, okay, do I have an issue there? What's going on? I can log on to the portals and see, oh, hang on, the payment device is down. Why is that down? Is that an electricity issue? What's going on? You can sort of be more effective then with this. And this is the thing, sort of into your original question there about sort of staying at the forefront there of the technology with payment devices. It's just imperative, really. And you just need to do some research, make sure that the solutions that are being looked at do offer all of it, and because a lot of them will do.
So, obviously, Cantlope's been operating in the marketplace for a long time, and we have in excess of 1 million connections that ultimately come into our networks that we obviously monitor and manage on a daily basis. The vast majority of those implementations that Cantlope has got today actually sits out in the US. And some of the trends that we've typically seen out in the US marketplace is that the adoption of card readers certainly has had an increase in the number of sales, first of all, at vending estates. And then typically the average basket sizes have also increased quite significantly. Would you say that that is an accurate statement, at least when it comes to your own estate, and how we should actually be looking at this from a UK perspective?
Yeah, completely. So we saw, I did a bit of work on this last, I think it was back in April. And that was to sort of generally just sort of look at sort of, as we do in finance, we like to look at our sales, what's increased, etc. And I did a bit of work on, the cash fee cashless, how did the sales sort of perform when we moved fully cashless? And, when you discount sort of inflation and general sales price rises that naturally you do over a period of time, we were seeing a 32% like-for-like increase in our sales average across the board, which we can only assume is that to do with the fact that we now moved across to cashless, and that runs in line with the graphs we saw previously. People aren't carrying as much cash anymore. People don't want to they don't want to break a note, they don't want to break coins, they don't want to be left all of this change. It's it's all tap and go. 33% was the average after we discounted for inflation sales price increases. Basket spend was a little bit harder for us to track because of when we had the vending software come in versus when we had the card payments sort of come in, and how we were able to reconcile that. We've definitely seen an increase in our basket size. We see that in our average transaction value. And so that has been on the increase. I'd be lying if I was to put a percentage to that. I wouldn't feel comfortable, but I'd say no, that is an increase in average basket size.
I totally appreciate that. Thank you very much. That's actually quite interesting from a statistical point of view that you guys certainly have seen those kind of increases. Obviously, you are, located in high footfall areas, and you do see quite a bit of traffic go past your machines. But I certainly, from a personal perspective, can attest that, whenever you get off, especially in a foreign airport somewhere, and I'm trying to get a bottle of cola or whatever from a vending machine, and I've got to try and find the last coins in my pocket in order to make that thing work, it's utterly annoying. Cashless obviously makes life so much simpler. And you've got the ability to certainly then do that then, which otherwise wouldn't have taken place. Adrian, if you could yeah.
Sorry, Sean, I was just saying, you make a really interesting point there about when you're at the airport with loose change, and I think there can be a sort of almost a fear of lost sales
Yes.
through if you were to remove the cash as an option, because I think most people can say we've all been there. We've had that bit of change left in our pocket that's been left over. It's like, oh, do you
Yeah.
know what? I'm just going to buy, a chocolate bar. I'm going to buy a drink or coffee or something. I'd say in the grand scheme of things, the wider benefit of going cashless would definitely outweigh that. But I appreciate that there could potentially be that concern there that people get on it, but I'm going to lose the sales of people with loose change. It's like, fair, but there's only so many people at the moment who are carrying that loose change that go, you know
No,
what?
absolutely, and I think it's a behavioral trend, right? We've got this younger generation coming into the mix right now. They are adopting technology at a far faster rate than from a historical point of view, and we are seeing far less people actually walk around with cash in their pockets. Like I said earlier, I mean, for me personally, I don't even know where my wallet is. I haven't known for probably the best part of a year. And quite frankly, I haven't actually gone to an ATM to withdraw money for a very long time. And even if I'm traveling to a foreign country somewhere, I still don't go and draw foreign cash. It just doesn't make sense. Because at the end of the day, whatever I don't use, I'm stuck with foreign currency in my pocket. What do I do with that, etc.? What if I don't find a vending machine where I can spend those last few coins? Then I'm stuck with it. And it's one of those. I'd rather just use the transactional ability of technology that's sitting on my phone, or alternatively on a card type that I can actually use.
Yeah. And I think as well, I mean, you say you're seeing it from, say, like your perspective there when you go abroad. We have to think as well when other people come from abroad over
Yeah.
to the UK. And obviously that becomes a very important part then of ensuring that the card devices themselves are set up that they can accept, that sort of multitude of different card types, and in that including the sort of the foreign cards themselves. Although, I mean, for all intents and purposes, they will carry a slightly higher transaction fee associated to them, but at the same time, that's still a sale, despite the minor margin erosion from the card transaction fee. That if you're appealing to everyone, you are going to see greater sales.
Yeah, and I think you're raising a very, very interesting point there. It's not just about the technology that's being implemented. And obviously, I've been working in the payments industry for over 25 years. I've pretty much seen and done everything when it comes to physical payment devices. And quite frankly, just generally, a payment device, to all intents and purposes, is a screen, a keyboard, and a card reader. All of these devices have to comply to certain security mandates and standards. Not all of the manufacturers necessarily follow those trends religiously, which actually is a big problem for me at a personal level, because that information isn't necessarily as readily available, especially for vending operators. Vending operators are very used to, placing vending machines at strategic locations and making sure that those things are stocked to the brim, especially at peak times, so that they can maximize the return on the investment that they make. They don't have the time to be concerned about the technology that actually gets implemented. But the point that you made now around the ability to accept multiple card types, have technology that's implemented that's going to cater for different communication types, a la Wi-Fi, 4G, Ethernet, etc., etc. Those things are very important aspects that need to be taken into consideration as part of that overall selection criteria that you go through when selecting your payment device. I'm not necessarily advocating for one device or another right now when I make the statement that evaluation criteria needs to be very clear. And obviously, you need to understand that if you're operating vending machines in public locations like train stations, as an example, and you are going to cater for foreign travelers, etc., that's going to pass through that specific area. If your card reader is not able to accept Apple Pay or Google Pay or an international Visa card or a MasterCard, as an example, that's going to be a major problem. And it's these type of things that do need to be taken into consideration as well. Thanks, Adrian. So when you and I spoke about this briefly the other day, obviously, you had your own personal experiences as far as cash handling and so forth is concerned. Care to share?
Yeah. So, I mean, this was, we're talking now a good 12, 13 years ago now.
Yeah.
I was actually out in the van, filling, stocking vending machines. It's for a slightly different company at the time. And it was a similar sort of thing of being on the very busy locations, and going to, say, stock machines, go collect the cash onto the next one. Now on some of these sites I was out there stocking and collecting this cash, I'd be easily bagging up over £1,000, depending on how many machines were on the location.
Yeah.
And I'm taking it back to the van, and now I'm a prime target there. If people are seeing me do this, frequently, every week, etc. Why would they maybe not try it from one time? It's say I'm just a massive security risk. And I was very fortunate it didn't happen to me. But we've definitely had people before try and break into the vans and that, because they thought, oh, they can see, it's a vending machine company, they must have a bit of cash in there. You've got two major risks there. You've got one is the security and well-being of sort of the staff. So say the staff going out there. Now, I'd say that at Decorum, if we were still cash now, we'd be very high risk. Just because of the locations we're at, you'd argue that if you were, say, within offices, you would be slightly more secure, would be quite a bit more secure. But there's still always that sort of risk there. And then of course you've got the security risk there of money itself being physically sort of stolen. And both go away at a much cheaper cost if you don't have to handle the cash there.
Your internal staffing typically dealing with cash, how has that changed? Because now, with you actually running full cashless solutions and having your daily takes being settled into your bank account directly, how has that actually changed the internal operation within Decorum?
Oh, it's massively. I mean, right now, in the morning, it's download a quick report from the card reader software. Cool, lovely. Yeah. We've done X amount of sales, fantastic. That's going to be in the bank when it's in the bank. Cool. Previously, the money comes back into the office, and we still have the coin counting machine downstairs in one of the offices. It's dropping all the coins into it there, bagging it up. Then you've got to go take it down to the bank. You've got another security risk in that. Yeah. While someone else sees you've gone into the bank with a load of cash. You get to the bank, you pay a fee because you've got to deposit a decent amount into it. You've got the inconvenience, it's little things. So you've got the inconvenience of just driving to the bank to go and find somewhere to park. It's always a kerfuffle. There's a line. Banks are closing down at the moment as well, so there's not that many of them left to go to. So yeah, I mean, from our perspective, and the way we had previously done it, and there's definitely going to be people that will say, "Oh no, but you could have done it like this, and this." No, it's fair, but how we did do it to how we are doing it now through being cashless is a dream in comparison. We have no stress, no headaches of worrying about is that cash going to make it one to the van, two to the office, three to the bank. Have we got
Yeah,
to sit there and
understood.
counting up? Yeah. So in telling our operation is just much smoother. One of those things that, yeah, it was a very seamless transition.
So in about 30 years, we're going to see you on Antiques Roadshow with your coin counting machine, trying to get a
Yeah,
valuation on this old, outdated device that we used to use when there was cash around.
exactly that, Sean. It's coming home with me.
Exactly. Adrian, you want to switch to the next slide? Thank you. So yeah, obviously, better customer satisfaction generally. I think as consumers, there is this significant need for instant gratification. And I think when it comes to, whether it be a micro market or a vending machine, et cetera, as long as technology actually works correctly and does what it needs to, the customer ultimately gets their products right off the bat as they need or want to in that specific sense. And I think again, Owen, when you and I spoke previously, vending machines have one purpose, that is to vend a product that is appealing to a consumer in that specific instance. But when that technology typically doesn't work or doesn't accept certain card brands or doesn't do what it's supposed to, that's where the dents and kicks and bashes ultimately come in as far as those vending machines are concerned. So, what is your opinion generally around consumer satisfaction by adopting some of the updated technology and making sure that these things are operationally doing what they are supposed to be doing?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we and obviously many others in the sort of vending industry, many other vending operators are trying to do is move this view of that old, dusty, battered, unloved machine in the corner with stock that looks a little bit questionable, and really start bringing vending to be sort of unattended retail, something that people choose. You want to approach a sort of a
Yes.
vending machine. You want to want to approach an unattended retail solution that's on offer. I think there's some really fantastic companies in the UK that are making big strides in really sort of revitalizing, revamping vending machines, unattended retail solutions, and really helping shift that consumer view of a vending machine for intents and purposes. And I think that sort of comes into play then with the sort of technology you have to have with that, be it not just the vending machine itself, possibly the vending machine software, and then in turn then the actual cash, the sort of payment solution, if you will. It all needs to be attractive. It all needs to come as sort of one that, say, we shift consumers to come across and go, yeah, do you know what? I really want to buy a bottle of water from that machine. Do you know what? That queue over there at the shop there, that's too much hassle. There's a vending machine there. I'm just going to go there because it's even more convenient than me having to wait in that queue. I'd say at the same time, obviously, vending machines, they 99.9% of the time, our vending machines will work. It's that 0.0001% of the time that an issue arises. A bottle jams, a chocolate bar drops but doesn't drop how it should, etc. Right, we've caused a problem then. And she sort of said, Sean, consumers want that instant gratification. Right,
Yes. Yeah.
we just stopped that instant gratification there and then. They're annoyed. Now, what we can do with a lot of the card readers is be able to sort of do that instant refund back to them. If they've had a payment authorized where they've paid for a
Mm-hmm.
product and that's actually debited
Mm-hmm.
their bank, we can refund that back to them, and I think that's the least we should be able to do in this situation, because we'd all feel aggrieved. If you've had a hard day at work, you've got to the vending machine and say, in our case, a train station, it's like, I just wanted a Kinder Bueno as an example. I just wanted that, and it's like, and it just didn't happen, and on top of that, it's just robbed me. Right, what do I do? So we make sure we've got QR codes, and we've also have the sort of label to say, look, in the unfortunate circumstance of which a product didn't dispense here, if you email this number here, email this address here, we will process the refund for you. And we get that back. Now, again, that's not the perfect journey for the consumer, but it's still significantly better than, say, if you just, I think everyone can relate to it, where you've put £1 into a vending machine and it's just dropped and nothing's happened. I was like, okay, well, at least we can give you that £1 back. We can definitely give you that £1 back, and so that, hey, look, this wasn't your 10 out of 10 experience, right? You've got your money back, so we'll try again. We'll fix this, and then and then off we go. So I think that's a massive thing, is the ability for the instant refunds, and say customer satisfaction. It's what they should expect at least. So it would be a bit of a stretch to say, oh no, we have a satisfied customer, because we haven't even had a customer at all. We at least have put them where they started to originally.
You actually raised quite a few interesting points, and I think you and I spoke previously about some of the updated technology that's actually coming to bear right now, and maybe in a future webinar we can certainly cover off that topic in far more greater detail. But yes, your point taken. Instant gratification is number one. If I'm putting £1 into that device and I don't get the product that I ultimately wanted, that obviously is a major issue. People don't necessarily go and make positive comment on Trustpilot and these type of things about a vending machine operating and actually giving them that Snickers bar that they wanted. But if you don't vend that Snickers bar and you've actually taken that person's £1 coin, then that's a major issue. That's when they actually go and file negative reports about that specific device in a specific location. So I think, it's going to be interesting to see how the adoption of even additional or updated technology in the future is certainly going to change that viewpoint. But it is all about customer satisfaction, making sure that they get the products that they want, and in the event where something doesn't work out correctly, that you can actually rectify that in the fastest or best possible way.
Yeah.
Do you want to move on to the next slide, please, Adrian? So sales data generally from card readers are extremely valuable. And Owen, I think earlier you touched on it briefly, that card readers aren't just card readers anymore. They are now, dual devices. They are card readers for payment purposes, but they also give us access to telemetry data that actually comes from these devices. And part of some of the other comments that you made earlier, we also touched on the technology ecosystem that sits behind this. So, regardless of whose solution, the payment device acts as an enabler. It gives you access to certain data points. How do you guys ultimately go about utilizing those data points in your business, and what does that actually help to drive as far as efficiencies, etc., is concerned in your organization?
So I think, and let's just talk here for a second in the absence of any other sort of vending machine software.
Yeah.
Any sort of third-party information on that. So how we are definitely able to, and how we do use this quite frequently, is, as obviously we mentioned before, about in terms of how we asset manage through this. Our nail machine at a certain station is doing a sort of X amount of sales per week. So I've got this real-time data that's telling me this. That's fantastic. That's just feeding straight in. Okay, fine. Do you know what? I can see there we've got to a Wednesday. That's just sold out. We weren't going to go visit it until next Monday. Okay, we need to go see it Thursday. it can, and again, I emphasize I'm talking in the absence of vending machine software here, but it can help in route planning because it's telling you that information sort of in real time live as to how that machine is performing. And we use that if we can see something has happened. Reading Festival as a really good example. We were maybe going to go and see the machine at Reading, let's just say on the Wednesday before, and then we wouldn't see it until the following Wednesday, as an example here. But hang on a minute, it's the Reading Festival. Hang on, Wednesday we've just sold out. Wait, we need to get there Thursday. Hang on, we need to get there Friday. We need to make sure we're there first thing Monday.
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing where we can see that we can then be. It's that combination of being reactive and proactive whilst using this data. We want to be as proactive as we can. We sort of plan our routes based off of the data we've got from this. We know sort of the trends, our seasonality, etc. But where we can sort of see that, hang on a minute, yesterday was a really good day. Right, we need to get there quite quickly because that is about to sell out. And we know we've got a weekend coming up, and we know we're going to. It's going to be a busy weekend, and that's one of the big things that when we do use it for quite frequently. And it's one of those that you wouldn't necessarily think that. I mean, maybe you would as well. I feel like I'm generalizing here, but optimizing your sort of routes through using card sales data, why not? It's there, and I say I caveat it in the absence of vending machine software, because vending machine software can obviously add something else to this altogether in terms of operational efficiencies, etc.
Yeah, but I think it's important to also understand that your card reader having the capabilities to provide that data points also leans itself toward the adoption of alternative technologies or software solutions that are going to help drive those efficiencies. Sure, you can look at sales data and you can draw certain conclusion sets, but let's be fair, there are quite a few solutions out in the market today that actually is going to help you interpret that data correctly and then obviously drive efficiencies as a result of those data points ultimately coming into the organization. Yeah?
Yeah, I'd also go as well where you can get that sort of granularity on this in terms of, when are you selling? What time of day is your highest sales? And you can even go one step further. What are you selling at what time of day? You're probably not selling a bottle of Pepsi at 7 o'clock in the morning, but you might be selling an orange juice. That makes sense. We know, right, orange juice sales are higher in the morning. Our Pepsi sales are higher at midday. Such and such sales are higher in the evening. And then you can use that information then to sort of go and work with the brands. You can work on, say, I won't go into too much detail on that, but it's taking that information, it's driving efficiency, it's driving profitability within the business by almost exploiting the data for its true value. And I think people need to maybe appreciate the value of the data that they have in front of them and what they could actually do with that.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. Adrian, can you move to the next slide, please? So just generally, obviously, you guys shifted to, cashless payments fairly early on. Can you give us a couple of tips on the do's and don'ts? How do you plan your upgrades? What are the things that you need to focus on, in your personal opinion? Obviously, having come from the payments industry for a long time, obviously we put quite a few payment devices into retail environments. We do know that there are quite a few things that you typically need to look out for in order to get those devices to function in the correct manner. But typically, what do you guys look at? How do you plan this out? What is your general approach?
So I think, the three points here sum it up quite well as a summary. I think one of the sort of first things we did when we were, let's say, we're starting off, we said, look, this is what we're going to do. We need to make a plan, was be aware of our own limitations of what we could do and when. And that sounds quite a negative place to start with, but it's not, because I think if you've got a rollout that you need to do of a large number of devices, you need to spend that time to work out how effectively and efficiently can you have them all installed and rolled out, um, whilst also ensuring that doesn't impact other elements of your business. And that might be
Yeah.
sounding like I'm teaching people to suck eggs here, but it's like, no, it sounds great on paper to be like, hey, no, look, we're just going to go swap them all out. It's like, okay, yeah, it's fine. But like, the time and resource that needs planning. You need to make sure that is fully managed and doesn't have implications on the wider business here. Because it's a logistical challenge. It's a big project. It requires a lot of pre-planning. It just shouldn't be underestimated. However, the benefits and the rewards of you doing it, they're massive, absolutely huge. I say being realistic with the timelines. It's not about how fast you can do it. It's how long will it take? How long will it take in order for it to be done right? Set up a project team, involve everyone you think will impact it or will be impacted by it, and listen to their feedback. Make sure that you're aware. If you're moving fully from cash to cashless, just spend some time. Just leverage other people in the industry. Speak to them. How did they do it? If you're, depending on who your provider is, speak to them. Say, hey, from your experience, how was this done? I think that's really what I would suggest on this.
No, absolutely. And obviously, organizations like Cantaloupe, as an example, go through extensive pre-planning as far as their device types are concerned, first and foremost. And secondly, general support for the devices that these things are being installed into. So I actually took some of my customer services guys and I sent them to a warehouse with about 25,000 vending machines in there. And we literally pulled the most common and widespread vending devices in the marketplace and physically tested the installation process on each one of those devices so that we were very clear on what the connectors actually look like, what cabling configurations we have to take into consideration, etc., etc. So to your point, speak to your suppliers, speak to your experts in the marketplace, and they'll give you very good guidance. And remember, one vending machine is definitely going to be different to another vending machine, and there are going to be nuances from a connection type perspective and so forth that does need to be taken into consideration. There's not an overnight exercise. Rome wasn't built in a day. You can deploy quite a few devices in a relatively short space of time, but it does require very careful planning as part of that overall process. And then the other thing, I have personally met with quite a few third-party companies out in the UK market, at least, that actually provide installation support services, engineering services. Those guys certainly know what they are doing. They've been doing it for a very long time, and they certainly can provide support for large-scale deployments like we are seeing in the marketplace currently. All right. Adrian, you want to move to the next slide? So something that we, from a Cantaloupe perspective, have been, discussing quite extensively with some of the network or the vending operators out in the market is the 3G sunset. Now, what does that mean? First and foremost, at the end of the year, the major networks, Vodafone, O2, BT, etc., will start turning off 3G towers across the UK market. Now, I do know that there are quite a few suppliers out in the marketplace that are saying, don't worry about it too much. Your devices that are 3G only capable currently will fall back onto 2G networks. But they are not necessarily taking into consideration the technical limitations of what that 2G network actually looks like, first and foremost, and how that payment application originally was configured. So just to give a little bit of background, up until a certain point, all physical hardware manufacturers would have bought 3 and 4G modems that they would supply into their payment devices. And there was a changeover at some point from 3G to 4G enabled devices, and that typically follows technology trends. So when the 4G modems were excessively expensive, people just focused on having 2G modems in their devices. And as that trend ultimately changed, they started adopting some of the updated technologies. So there's a very clear cutoff as far as these devices are concerned, and quite a substantial amount of devices that are still implemented across the European marketplace today are 3G only capable. So what does that mean? At the end of the year, when the 3G towers start being turned off, whether it's a mobile phone, coffee machine with a SIM card in it, or a payment terminal, or whatever the case may be, that typically only has capabilities to connect to a 3G network, will start failing as a result of those towers being turned off. The concept around fallback to 2G networks, in principle, yes, sure, might be correct. But those 2G networks, first and foremost, were never designed for large-scale data package transfers. They were designed for text messages, not for data. And the 2G network data portion that is available today is largely used by the government for some of their old legacy systems that they still use today. And those guys are also migrating at this point. That certainly is going to filter out, and as a result of that, obviously there is going to be a fallover as a result of this. So if you do have a payment device that falls back to 2G, chances are when you try and do a transaction, that transaction will time out. You're not going to get authorizations as fast as you would under normal circumstances, and in most cases the terminal will actually time out before that authorization has taken place. So if you do still have 3G devices out in your estate, please contact us, have a conversation with us, talk about the migration plan, talk to your current supplier. There is still time left. Don't ignore it. It's not a problem that's going to go away. It certainly is going to be there. And as soon as these towers are being turned off, then obviously, there is going to be a major issue as a result. Adrian just gave me a heads up that we are running a little bit late. So let's just move to the next slide, please, Adrian. Right. So how do we go about preparing? So obviously identify your 3G readers that you currently still have in your estate. Determine those sunset dates. We did provide a little bit of guidance as far as those sunset dates are concerned. Please keep in mind that most of these mobile network operators actually share infrastructure. So where I'm sitting right now, I am operating on O2 network, but it doesn't mean that the tower that's sitting in my area, which I'm connected to, actually belongs to O2. If that tower is a Vodafone tower and they decide to turn that tower off at the end of the year, my O2 network will go down as well as a result. So just keep in mind that shared services ultimately do get impacted as a result of this, so don't ignore that. And then create an upgrade plan. As I said earlier, please speak to us. We have a vast team of knowledgeable individuals internally that can certainly support the migration from 3G to 4G devices. And we have some very attractive commercial offers that we can put in place as well. And as Adrian indicated earlier, we'll certainly filter out some of that information to you guys in the coming days. Adrian, so at this point, I think it's probably the right thing to hand over back to you based on the timing.
Awesome. Thanks a bunch, Sean. And thanks, Owen, too. I think this was a really interesting presentation. So thanks, you guys. You covered a ton of interesting topics. And also a big thank you to everyone that joined us here today. Lots to talk about. We actually ran over a little bit of our time. We're still going to try to grab a couple minutes here for Q&A. So if you haven't asked any questions yet, but you're interested in asking any, please throw them into the chat right now. But we're going to go ahead and just start diving into some of the questions that have come in so far. So kind of following up, Sean, on what you were just talking about with 3G, was the information that we talked about here on the networks that we're going to be sunsetting comprehensive? Or the specific question was, will other networks other than the ones mentioned here be okay? Or I guess not go through a sunset?
The answer to that, Adrian, most certainly is yes, they are going to be affected. Like I mentioned earlier, most of these mobile network operators share infrastructure. Keep in mind, obviously, depending on who was first in the marketplace, they will probably own most of the infrastructure, or alternatively, it will be a government-led thing. So these mobile towers are being shared by multiple network operators, and if one network operator turns off that infrastructure, it certainly is not going to be available for another network provider. So from that point of view, the impact is there. It's going to happen. The reason why they are turning 3G towers off as of the end of the year is because they are actually trying to make available that bandwidth to be part of the 4 and 5G networks that are going live at this stage. As far as the physical frequency ranges are concerned, they don't have enough capacity to deal with all the data demands on 4 and 5G networks. And that's why they're shutting down the 3G networks. And probably within 6 to 12 months following that, they'll shut down the 2G networks as well, in order to make that bandwidth available for the larger networks.
Great. Thanks a lot, Sean. And then in the interest of time, we're just going to grab one more question and then call it. This is going to be to Owen. So, Owen, if you were to go back and plan your upgrades to cashless again, what would you do differently if you had to go through that process again, if anything?
I think look, at the end of the day, there's always things you could do differently. There's always efficiencies and things that you find. You always look back and go, "Oh, I could have done that." Hindsight's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I think maybe more just generally we could have been more efficient in our planning of like sort of how many we could have done at one time, how we worked in the clusters we worked them in. It would say it's more just like the basic logistics. I think we probably could have improved on. Let's say as a rollout as in itself, it was actually quite smooth. We did it very well, but yeah, I think maybe a bit more time could have been spent of just going, hey, do you know what? We actually could have done more quicker. Than what we actually did.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Sean. Well, with that, let's call it there. Again, big thanks to everybody else. And a reminder, do keep an eye on your email this week. Sean's going to be sending out an email of the different promotions that we're going to be offering for the webinar exclusive attendees. Also, we're going to be sending you the recording. So if there's any spots that you want to call out and revisit, or go out and share the link with a friend, you'll have that option. But with that, last thank you. Yeah, sure.
Just really quickly, so just one more question just popped in there. I know we're overrunning. I don't know if you want to take that one offline or...
Oh, yeah, sorry, I can see that now. So, okay, one more question then. How do Cantaloupe look at the Scandinavian market for both vending, MDB protocol, and the EV charging, OCCP?
I think that probably requires more than just a quick 2-second discussion. Christian, if you want to reach out to me directly, then we can set up a call and talk about the requirements specifically. The payment devices that we have today obviously supports the MDB protocol, and certainly the OCCP protocol used for EV charging is also covered by the exact same device. In actual fact, the device type that we currently use covers more than 60% of the current market share at a global level for EV charging. So it has the capability to cover both of those protocols in one single device. So please reach out to us and we can obviously provide some additional information for you as well.
Excellent. All right. Well, with that, I'll say everybody have a great day, and hope to see you guys at our next webinar soon. Thanks all.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Thank you.